The film takes place in Atlantic City, where a news reporter is seen broadcasting a boxing event outside the infamous Gilbert Powell's arena, where a heavyweight championship match will take place between Lincoln Tyler and his opponent. In the meantime, we see a corrupt police officer named Rick Santoro who hassles a TV reporter named Lou Logan while he's on live TV. Off camera, Lou begs Rick to place a bet on Tyler for 50 grand on his behalf since he doesn't have the money. With the intention of cutting commission from the bet, Rick agrees and approaches a guy named Jimmy backstage, who is in charge of the bets. For a brief moment, Rick gets excited to catch a glimpse of Tyler, but his manager shuts the door in Rick's face. Jimmy also doesn't agree to place the bet since he is familiar with how Rick hassles everyone with money. Lucky for Rick, he sees a low-level criminal named Cyrus, so he goes after him and steals 3 grand from him while justifying his reasons. He immediately hands over the stolen money to Jimmy as a down payment, so Jimmy places his bet and leaves. Rick sees Tyler once again and cheers for him, but Tyler ignores him and walks away. When Rick goes into the audience, he spots his childhood friend, Kevin Dunn, who is now a U.S. Navy commander, currently working with the Defense Department to escort the Defense Secretary, Charles Kirkland. Suddenly, the match's commentator introduces Charles Kirkland to the audience and puts a spotlight on him, which Kevin doesn't like since it increases the chances of threats. Rick chooses to stick with Kevin during the match. As the match begins, Kevin becomes infatuated with a redhead named Serena, who keeps signaling him with her eyes. He ends up leaving his seat and approaching her in the audience. She dashes out of there, so Kevin goes after her to find out who she is. In his absence, his seat is taken by a mysterious woman with platinum blonde hair, who introduces herself as Julia Costello to Rick. Rick keeps getting bothered by women on the phone, which agitates him. On top of that, he becomes stressed out to see Tyler get knocked out by his opponent because he was betting on Tyler. Suddenly, an echoing gunshot is heard in the arena, and blood over Rick's face is seen. When the camera zooms out, we see that Charles Kirkland has been shot in the neck. But since Julia was in the way, the bullet grazed her forearm first, causing her blonde wig to fall off and reveal her dark brown hair. The uncalled assassination of Charles Kirkland leaves the 14,000 people in the audience baffled and wreaks havoc in the arena. Everyone starts running towards the exit points, during which Kevin arrives with his gun, suggesting that he has killed the assassin. Due to the distance between them, Rick loudly yells at Kevin and lets him know that Kirkland is dead. Kevin manages to spot and shoot the assassin, and Rick gets the security to initiate lockdown in the arena. Simultaneously, he holds Julia closer to him, but she breaks free from his grip and vanishes in the crowd. Rick finally meets Kevin in a private place, where Kevin is seen worrying about losing his job and getting punished in the military court for his negligence. Kevin admits that it was his fault that he followed the redhead, but Rick puts words in his mouth and tells him that he was only checking out a suspicious character whom he had suspected beforehand. He also persuades him to lie about his actual whereabouts. Now Rick takes over and lets the FBI agent know how Kirkland was shot by an assassin, whom Kevin shot immediately after. The detective decides to take over the situation, but Rick fights to stay on the case, claiming that he is with the Atlantic Major Crimes Department, who closely witnessed the assassination. When Rick moves towards the surveillance room, the reporter, Lou Logan, begs him to let him be the only one to cover the entire assassination event from inside the arena for old time's sake. He has an ulterior motive to use Rick to get a promotion at his job. He offers Rick 5 grand, so Rick lets him stay in the arena and cover the news for his channel. Meanwhile, we see Julia suspiciously walking inside the women's bathroom with her white jacket smeared with her blood. Rick finally gets the security guard to play the match's footage before Kirkland was shot. Upon replaying the footage multiple times, Rick notes that the opponent's knockout punch never landed on Tyler's face, which proves that Tyler faked his knockout. Back in the ladies' washroom, we see Julia tying a piece of cloth around her arm wound and cleaning the blood off her neck while worrying about getting herself involved in the assassination. Moving on, Rick finally gets to interrogate Tyler personally, who visibly looks scared. He immediately spills that the match was rigged and that he was paid to lose. Since he was drowning in debt, he took the offer to get out of his debt. In the subplot, Julia is seen leaving the arena in a hooker's disguise. Back in the bar, Rick swears not to mention Tyler's involvement in the assassination if he pays him the $10,000 that he lost in the bets and $500 for shaming the ring. Tyler agrees to pay up and swears that he didn't know that his fight was rigged to kill someone. That's when Rick asks him who paid him and gave him a heads up when the shot was about to be fired. The story goes into a flashback, in which we see Tyler's manager, Mickey, driving a news channel's cameraman away from a secret party being held backstage. At the party, we see Cyrus supplying and trying out his drugs on some showgirls. Tyler also wishes to join it, but Mickey strictly forbids him from attending such a party, as the place is infested with media reporters who are looking for ways to bring him down and tarnish his image. Mickey walks into the party himself and kicks Cyrus out of there. Jimmy also joins him and inclines him to tell him if Tyler is going to lose or win, so he can gamble accordingly. Mickey gets rid of him as well and goes back into Tyler's room, where he sees Rick cheering for Tyler and shuts the door in his face. While Tyler practices his punches in front of the mirror, Mickey argues with him about the debts that are gathering over his head and how he's close to ending his career. Cyrus walks in without knocking and asks Mickey to pay up for the drugs he supplied at the party. Mickey pays him some, which Rick steals from him on his way out. Back in the present timeline, Tyler devastatingly tells Rick that he agreed to lose because he was promised a rematch to save his career, which was above all the debts he was willing to settle by losing. Tyler also reveals that the people who wanted him to lose made him aware of a man in the front row who was supposed to give him the signal about when to lose the match. All he knows about that man is that he was wearing an earpiece, indicating that he was being instructed by someone. In a flashback, we see Tyler struggling to lose the match, as he badly wanted to win.
I was just trying to shut him up. I barely even tapped him. I wasn't lying about that.
Soon, the man in the front signals him by saying something awful, so he goes down.
Distracted, giving him a clear shot right through the camera. But that punk-ass son of a bitch didn't see the act of my own head, you know? I realized he didn't connect.
Allowing the assassin to take his shot. In a shocking turn of events, Tyler mentions the main culprit, who personally met him in his hotel room and told him when to go down during the match. He doesn't know anything about her except the fact that she had red hair. Rick is quick to connect the dots and figure out that the woman who paid him to lose is the same woman who lured Kevin away from his post. The scenes shift to Kevin, who is finally facing the media. He's interviewed by Lou Logan and his camera crew. On their channel, Kevin discloses the identity of the assassin, who was a Palestinian. He also shows them a letter that the assassin deliberately wanted to be found by them. However, he refuses to disclose the contents of the letter and Kirkland's status before the FBI joins the investigation. After the interview, Kevin meets up with Rick in private. Rick immediately tells him about the redhead and her cutting the deal with Tyler to lose the match. While Rick has trouble forming a theory behind the conspiracy, Kevin recalls his trip to Norfolk, where he was also the head of security for Charles Kirkland. Their trip was backed up by Powell's company, and they went to see the testing of an air guard missile. Hence, Kevin concludes that the sniper, Tariq Rabat, a well-known Palestinian militant, killed Kirkland to prevent the United States government from acquiring the missile. In another flashback, we see Kevin bringing Kirkland into the arena. In narration, Kevin confesses to being excited after the missile testing, which is why he let himself off the edge to flirt with Serena, the redhead. His way of flirting with her is to hassle her to show the ticket for the seat she was sitting on. Serena ends up running away from there. While he flirts with her backstage, the assassin shoots Kirkland from behind the wall Serena and Kevin are standing next to. Without thinking twice, Kevin shoots at the wall multiple times and kills the assassin. Presently, Rick decides to review the footage once again to locate Serena, so he parts ways with Kevin. Kevin finally reveals his true colors by meeting Serena and the signal guy in secrecy, revealing them to be his crew members and himself to be the actual culprit behind the assassination. He lets them know about Rick's move, so they decide to take him down, but Kevin strictly forbids them from doing so since Rick is his best friend. He tells them to escape from the back, but when they walk away, he shoots both of them dead out of fear of getting caught because of them. The scenes revert to Rick, who is reviewing the surveillance tapes again. This time, he spots Julia in the poker room. She seduces a sleazy middle-aged man named Ned Campbell just so she can hide in his room until things settle down. Kevin is also updated on Julia through the hotel security, so he and Rick pursue her simultaneously. Walking through all sorts of hotel rooms, we finally see the one Julia is in. Ned is flattered by her fake interest and tries to force himself on her. Rick finds her before Kevin does and takes her into his protective custody. The two temporarily catch a breath on the staircase, where Julia reveals herself as an analyst who worked on the air guard testing. She confesses that she had found out about the missile testing being fabricated because it was still malfunctioning in real life. Hence, she made Kirkland aware of the fraud and prevented the US from purchasing a faulty piece. When Kevin learned about her involvement, he decided to assassinate her along with Kirkland so he could strike the deal and get the Defense Department to purchase the faulty missile.
Because they rigged it, Mr. Secretary.
Despite having his doubts and lashing out at Julia, Rick finds her statement to be true and deduces that Kevin is the real culprit. On the contrary, Kevin is seen getting scolded by Powell for failing to kill Julia along with Kirkland. Meanwhile, Rick hides Julia in a warehouse for her safety and returns to reviewing footage from the ring match. This time, he discovers a floating camera in the arena and accesses its footage, in which he finally catches Kevin's involvement in the assassination. Kevin finally confronts Rick and bribes him with $1 million to expose Julia's location. When Rick persistently refuses his offer, he has Tyler beat him up. When he still refuses to give out Julia's location, he plants a tracking device on him and follows him to the warehouse. Luckily, the news reporter from the film's beginning is seen broadcasting near the warehouse during a tidal wave. When a tidal wave strikes the coastline, Rick uses it as cover to hurry Julia outside, where Kevin opens fire in front of the waiting police officers who were alerted by Rick. After being apprehended by the police, Kevin shoots himself to death after realizing his scheme has failed. The mayor of Atlantic City later hails Santoro as a hero, but the media quickly exposes his corruption, costing him his job, his wife, his lover, and custody of his kid. He is taken into custody, found guilty, and given a prison term. Powell is entirely reorganizing his company and discontinuing the Air Guard, saving the lives of numerous men. In the end, Julia kisses Rick goodbye and waits for him to get released in 18 months. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe for more awesome recaps.